I was wrong in doing what I did.
No! Are you listening?
No, I'm 87.
Sean here, and I often wonder, what is it that Lorne fantasizes about? What is it that he goes back and plays a scenario over and over in his head? Now, I started this morning off with my son listening to every little in the book, going, how do I do what I do, what I say. And I blame him for introducing me to Miles with Indiana Jones. Don't look it up. Look it up. You've already looked it up. Please come back to this video. But I wonder, bipolar people, they have a tendency to have these scenarios in their head, and they, like when he's screaming and when he's played out these scenarios of what isn't really happening but what he's worried about, it also goes for fantasizing. He just gets stuck on something and goes back until he gets the scenario just right. And when he needs to escape or when life sucks, he can go back to that time he was a legend, a superstar, things were going right. And we know Lorne doesn't appreciate what he has. So we know it's not to go back and think of what would have happened had his business been successful, had he not stolen from Betty. The dude has no remorse whatsoever. The kind of guy who tells a lie long enough. I think I told you, I don't know if I did, about the kid who said the guy who said he was left downtown in a city as a kid, and he started singing and the whole city stopped and they came around and just listened to his angelic voice. It was ridiculous. But I miss those stories at work. Moving on. I think what probably happened to that guy, his mom was waiting in the DMV and he was bored and he was singing a little song and bobbing his head and oh, that's a sweet voice. And then in his head he remembered, oh man, everybody was listening to me in there. But when you tell a lie, you have to add a little bit to it, especially when you're a liar. So he's telling everyone that, oh, the whole city, it was crazy. I mean, come on, man. Anyway, Lorne at that karaoke contest, there were probably two people and he got third. But we talked about that briefly, about how in his head it was this big deal. It was huge. He was the guy who was singing and everybody stopped and listened because he was so incredible. But in reality, he got up there. I don't know too many people who'd even bother to get to a karaoke contest, especially if there was no money involved. And out of curiosity, I went to a karaoke contest and there was no money involved. I'm not saying there isn't money involved in all of them, but I think the selling point is that these people get up there and they get, ladies and gentlemen, first place, $5 gift card to a free drink tonight on us, yeah, Mr. Bob Johnson. And second or third place is Mr. Lorne. It's Lorne. That's what I just said, is Lorne. No, it's Lorne. When he was trying to tell Kayla his name, that was comic. Lorne. Yeah, look how good it is. My mom loves me. She gave me Lorne. Moving on. So he probably occasionally goes back to that scenario about the time he won and how, he was on his way to being the biggest country music star of all time, and surely there was going to be a representative coming in, because that's what they do. They go to karaoke bars and that's where they're going to look for their talent. The guy doesn't understand that outside of Pornville there are hundreds of millions of people, and probably hundreds of millions of people that sing better than he does. Take me home, country road. And one of his buddies posted under one of those videos, what a good voice. He's got a strong voice. His name was probably LLA Cornville_Cornville. Nobody will figure that out. I'm a genius. I thought it was Kayla that would be the biggest fantasy, but I think it's Paula. I think he's gone back and convinced himself. He's the guy who said, well, it was going to happen, so it happened. And I don't know if that's the case, but with Paula, he probably goes back and thinks of all those times, situations where what he wanted to happen didn't happen, but in his head, he remembered a sign. She had done something that was going to happen for sure. So in my honest opinion, Paula is probably number one. Some people are stuck in high school or in a past relationship, traumatic experience. They didn't do something. They didn't act when they should have. So they play that scenario over and over in their head until they feel comfortable. Yeah, I know what I was going to do. I know what I should have done. I hesitated for a moment. Or the things that they should have said, they go home and fantasize about that. Not fantasize, but obsess over that situation and what they should have said to that person. Lorne is that type of guy, and he probably thinks about the Paula situation and what he could have done. Now, the information I got and the information everybody else got, they all match. And it's usually, Lorne stalking her and her boyfriend intervening. Probably Roy, like, dude, you need to leave her alone. Man, you shut up, man. You don't know what we have. Fantasizes about her not leaving. Fantasizes about her. That whole thing about the truck was just bizarre. I'm telling you, his life is Roy's life. Not boy's life. I mean, girl's life maybe, but that's the magazine he has. But I think it was Roy's life, or one of Roy's friends, or somebody, that cool friend who comes over and you're like, hey, and he's always got something crazy going on. I think Lorne stole some of that and started to tell it as his own. And with Kayla, and I know that Lorne looks back and he believes he should have been on house arrest or on parole, and they should have just monitored his internet usage for a little bit. And he still has fantasies, probably of Chris Hansen getting what he deserves and perverted justice. And I would imagine he has a specific scenario in his head when it comes to how perverted justice kind of fell apart. And all of those things he's told himself over the years about Xavier on Earth, he's created this giant scenario about how some people, they just dream about being a superhero or a superstar, sport, whatever, athlete in high school. And I don't think that's Lorne. We know he never got the girl at any time, so most of his life probably is fantasies. And maybe the reason he was 87 out of 86 was because he was fantasizing in class and not paying attention. But his whole life has become one big illusion, I guess you would say. Fantasizing about these women coming out is what keeps him hooked, and what it's going to be like and what they're going to do. And I've been stood up before when I was younger on a date. I mean, it was one of those things, you never make decisions when you're happy, or when you're, you don't make promises when you're happy, or decisions when you're angry. It never works out, right? We got to do this. Yeah, this is great, man. I'm so excited. We got to do this. And then it doesn't happen, and you never catch up. And I think that's what Lorne does in a lot of these cases. He just doesn't think about the situation. He only hears, I'm going to come out one time. I'm going to come out but all he hears is, I'm going to come out. So he builds these scenarios up in his head. I mean, think about it with Jamie, a robot voice, and this dude is supposedly doing work on his house, moving dirt over here or over there. He's doing that. Roy's probably screaming at him, you moron. You don't know what you're talking about, Roy. What about that one time you were catfished? I mean, we know Lorne. One time you did this, so everything I've done is okay. So anyway, when he's fantasizing about these scenarios, I don't know if he's able to see what the proper outcome was, or the likely outcome, or what he could have done to make them better, or what it was that made him fail. So in his head, he's just playing these scenarios over with terrible insight and perspective, because he's a moron. So the long and short of what I'm saying is, I think Lorne spends a lot of time thinking about the past. He just can't, my past, he can't get out of there. He's stuck. He's imprisoned himself there. I mean, I don't know if he ever got past the conviction. So I think he's stuck in the past. I think he fantasizes about everything. Paula, number one. The conviction not being there, number two. Walking into that house and seeing Keishi just looking at him and falling in love, leaving her well-groomed, well-dressed life behind and living in a trailer with a bald, dirty tank top, bologna and cigarette breath-smelling, gross man who can take 6 showers a day and still be gross. I don't know what else he would, maybe something in elementary school about how he left the basketball team and all of his friends left him. We know that story about how he was such a star at 11 years old. Come on, man. I mean, think about it. 11 years old, and that's what you're blaming losing friends on, is that you quit the basketball team. And we've talked about it. These people weren't his friends. If he was on the basketball team, he was stuck. They were stuck with him. They couldn't get away from him, so they had to talk to him. And you know him. He's the guy, hey, Bob, hey. Oh, hey, Lorne. What are you doing over here, man? Hey, you want to talk about this? Hey, you know what Bob just told me? Or, you know what Bill just told me? He told me that he did this, because we know he's going to tell everybody everything. And I think maybe, just maybe, he goes back and imagines himself as a star because of NBC. And these catfish women, he got one over on them, or they never happened, or it played out differently. I don't know. His entire life now revolves around the mistake he made, and he can't get past it. And honestly, I don't know if he'll ever get past it. And I don't know if he even knows how to get past it, or even what caused it. That's a different video. I just wonder where this man goes in his head when he tries to escape. Anyway, love you guys. I'll see you in the next one.